Hello, and welcome to the very first episode of the Ancient Cricks Podcast Season 2. I'm Anna.
I'm Levi.
I'm Ezra.
And I'm Ada.
Today's episode, we're going to be diving into one of the most exciting periods in human history, the Renaissance, a time of incredible innovation, dazzling art, and powerful patrons who shaped the future of Europe.
What is even a Renaissance?
Well, according to the Dictionary from Oxford Languages, the Renaissance is defined as the revival of art and literature under the influence of classical models in the 14th to 16th centuries.
Where was it?
I think it was like in Italy. It was technically throughout all of Europe, but when most people think about the Renaissance, it's through Italy and kind of ideas from Greece, but mostly it's in Italy.
What do you like, Ezra? What do you think of when you hear Renaissance?
I think of painters
Like
because Leonardo da Vinci.
Well, the most interesting thing about that is that they weren't paid by like a bunch of people. There were certain people that were patrons. They're called patrons, and their families, like the Medicis, were patrons,
Yeah.
and they paid those artists to make paintings of them and make them look like cool and high and mighty. And then the patrons would be happy, and then they'd hire artists like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo over again so that they would just get more money and they'd get more famous.
So they would both benefit from that.
Yeah.
They would both get more famous and more wealthy. Both benefiting each other.
Okay, but I have a question because Anna said something about like the who, the Medicis.
Yes.
Who are the Medicis?
The Medicis actually were kind of like the leader because there were city states in Italy, and they kind of were like the leaders-ish slash rulers of certain of the city state that they were in, and they kind of would loan money out to people, and then if those people didn't pay back the money that they owed, then they would send out kind of soldiers called mercenaries that would try to get back the money and like intimidate them to give back the money to the Medicis, and then that's how they got rich. Because actually, the Catholic Church didn't like interest because the Medicis were kind of the revolutionary family for introducing the interests. The interests of people that started interest because the Catholic Church said interest was bad, and they were like, we don't care. So then they just started with uh, charging interest to families, and then the other families that ruled the city states were like, let's do that too. So then that's how people got rich, and that's how the Renaissance was able to even happen, because the amount of money that they needed for those paintings to be painted, all the art and literature and philosophy to even start, they just needed like a bunch of money, and so that's how.
So basically, they ruled the place and started the Renaissance.
They were kind of they didn't yes, they kind of ruled the place. That's kind of how but they were separate city states. There was many city states, and they were just part of this one city state, and they were technically part of helping start the Renaissance, but they weren't like the Medicis were not the only people part of the Renaissance that like made it start.
Because they did patronage, be patrons for many artists and art.
Yeah.
People like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Botticelli.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so basically just really rich people.
really rich people, and they help influence a lot of the Renaissance.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a win-win situation though, right? Because like the Medicis, like the rich people, they get to look cool and stuff, and then the artists get money from it.
Yeah.
Speaking of art, which Renaissance art piece is your favorite and why?
I mean, I think one of the most famous ones is the painting on the top of the Sistine Chapel of like God reaching down to that guy. I don't really know fully what the paintings is about, but I really like that because I feel like it's talked about a lot, and it's like it's one of the main pieces of art in the Renaissance that is talked about. And another theory that some people have is that the picture, the top where it's like God and the angels, it's like the like an anatomically correct like model of a brain.
Mhm.
So I thought that was really interesting because I didn't know that before like learning all of this stuff.
Who painted it again? I forgot.
I think it was Michelangelo, if I'm
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it
correct.
was.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't he
Me,
like run away before the painting was finished because he wasn't
Oh
satisfied?
Didn't
yeah.
like it. Yeah.
Michelangelo was a very interesting guy, to be
They have
honest.
to drag him back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So why would artists make a lot of portraits inspired by humanism in that time period, do you think?
Hmm.
I mean, my opinion is kind of just like that's what they were learning and they were trying to, I think, because I think when people think of the Renaissance, they think of art mostly and they don't think a lot of the philosophy part of it and the
Mhm.
whole like new ideas were being created. I mean, I think history teachers think about that and people learning it, but whenever someone who hasn't thought about the Renaissance in a while thinks about the Renaissance, they think of the art piece of it.
Yeah.
And so I think it was like the artists and the philosophers were all part of the Renaissance and they kind of were learning off of each other and so I think that's probably why it was like they had humanism in a lot of their art and stuff.
And you said humanism as well. What is humanism?
Humanism, let's look up the definition for that real quick.
Ezra, do you want to
because-
guess what humanism is? You just try.
Humanism, like human things, like people and their attributes and like personalities.
Mhm.
So
What humans are like.
it's not quite the definition, but again, according to the dictionary from Oxford Languages, it is an outlook of system or system of thought attaching prime importance to human rather than divine or supernatural matters. Humanist beliefs stress the potential value and goodness of human beings, emphasize common human needs, and seek solely rational ways of solving human problems.
Okay.
So that was kind of a
Yeah.
smart person definition,
Definition.
but yeah, basically they were more thinking about like human emotions and just more relatable stuff to humans than God. Like they were kind of
Yeah.
because I think before that they were more focusing on like what is God and how do we get to heaven and just more religious stuff.
But then during the Renaissance, they started to like focus more on like humans and like uh, what their nature,
Yeah.
what influenced them.
Yeah, because like the Renaissance, like mainly focused on the human form, whether like also like art and ideas, like philosophies. I guess was that like what you meant?
Yeah.
So this is kind of a more simple question, but like who was your favorite Renaissance artist?
I was Leonardo da Vinci
Leonardo da Vinci.
because he painted the, if not the famous Mona Lisa.
Ada, what about you?
Probably like Michelangelo, even
Mm,
though I forgot his name. But there's like that statue, right, in
Yeah.
Florence of David,
yeah.
and it's like gigantic, and the details, the muscles, the veins, whatever, they're so detailed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Ezra?
I like Michelangelo also. I like his just details in his statues and the things he made, just like carving it out of stone.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
think that was really cool.
I heard this quote actually because I've been watching a show called Lost, and there was a quote from like this guy talking about Michelangelo, and it was like, I think it was Michelangelo. It was either Michelangelo or Da Vinci. But basically, his father was like, he didn't like that he had to work with his hands because he was like higher up and he was like, you shouldn't have to work with your hands. And he beat him and stuff. And so basically, they were like, he was like, don't work with your hands. So then Michelangelo like took that literally and was like, don't work with your hands. And so this prince from like a foreign country came over to their house and he saw Michelangelo like sitting and just looking at this gigantic like quartz like stone block. And they were like, what is he doing? And he's like, I'm working. And then like 4 months later, that turned into the statue of David.
Mhm.
So
Really?
yeah, like just using his mind to plan out everything before he was gonna do it.
So it's just a big block of stone. In
Like a
his house?
huge, yeah,
It was
like
17
Just in his
feet
house.
yeah,
tall.
17 feet
17 feet tall.
giant stone pillar type
Mhm.
thing, and then in 4 months' time, he was able to carve it out into the Statue of David, which is like one of the most famous statues today. So.
Yeah, I could never. Because like his like Sistine Chapel
Mm.
painting, that took 4 years.
Yeah, I mean, I, anytime I start a art project like that, I'm like done within like a month because I'm just
Right?
like I cannot focus on this for more than.
I can't even do a month. I'm like done in a week.
Yeah.
I can't even do it in a second, bro.
In a second.
In a second? I don't think anyone could do that.
Yeah.
No, and Michelangelo was also Medici's artist that we like talked about just
Mhm.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were his patron. Patron?
Patron.
Yeah.
Patron.
Patron.
Yeah. I think the patronism part of it, I think, is a very like cool idea because I mean, a lot of people kind of use that like to kind of explain them using money on paintings and stuff. They're like, oh, we're being patrons of the arts. I feel like I've heard that multiple times, and it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, it's a good concept because it's like you're paying for people to express like being able to do what they love. That's one of the jobs that I feel like if I was a good artist, I would love to have because it's like you get to do what you love. And yeah, I guess it's kind of work and you kind of have to do it in like a certain time frame. But it's also like you get to paint and you get to see the strokes on the canvas and get to put your ideas and your mind to life. So
Mhm.
I think being a patron of the arts is something that's probably very good for society and just people's ideas.
Yeah.
One thing about the Renaissance that kind of just translates into uh, modern society is how like there's Leonardo da Vinci, there's Michelangelo, there's Raphael, and then Donatello. Yeah, they're like the Ninja Turtles and stuff. But they
Yeah.
were all artists, right? They were, I think, they were all artists, or were they? Was one of them a philosopher, or were they all artists?
All artists.
They were all artists. Yeah, I think it's cool how like a random show just started using names from the
Artists.
Renaissance
Mhm.
in
Is
like
that-
a kids TV
It
show.
was actually first a comic book.
Really?
That was like a pretty dark comic book.
Oh,
But
really?
then to get more money, they made it into a TV show.
Hmm.
And they made it like a kids TV show, so they get like more money, more people would watch it. Instead of
Hmm.
like this gruesome Ninja Turtles.
Yeah. But I mean, I've never really watched Ninja Turtles, so yeah. I guess I wouldn't. You would probably know more about that than me. Well, we are running out of time, unfortunately, so we are gonna end the episode here. Come back for part 2 later on next week, and we'll continue talking about the Renaissance.
Make sure to like and subscribe.
Sure. Like
Yeah.
and subscribe.
Like
Yeah.
and subscribe.
Like and subscribe.
Follow our channel.
And our Instagram.
If there's
And like and subscribe.
yeah, any questions, you can maybe comment down and we'll try our best. But maybe Google is also good for that.
Yeah, we'll answer all your questions.